We're at a point right now in the real estate market that I feel like a lot of buyers are having this fear of missing out mentality. Because if you type real estate into Google right now, you're going to see 15 different articles with drastically different headlines. And most of the headlines that are going to catch your attention are prices are up 35%, or did you see that this one house doubled in value in under 2 years? And frankly, over the last 2 years, if you've owned any type of real estate pretty much in Southern Ontario, you've made a lot of money on paper. But this fear of missing out mentality, I think, is sometimes also making buyers make really bad decisions right now in terms of prices that they're offering on properties. And that's why in this video, I'm going to tell you a few of the reasons why I think you should not be buying a property in 2022. And then I will share a few of the reasons why I think you should be buying a property. A quick reminder, we are on our way to 5,000 subscribers. We are not that far away. So if you've been watching these videos and you have not yet clicked that button, I would really appreciate it. And for all the people that have already subscribed and watched all the videos, what's up? Welcome back. I'm glad you're here. If you like what you heard in this video or any of my other content and you want to book a call with me, you can go into the first link in the description, a buyer call, a seller call, or just a call to chat about real estate. But why, as a real estate agent who makes my living selling properties, would I make a video called Why You Shouldn't Buy a Property in 2022? And the reason why is because I'm not transactional. We've built our entire business on repeat and referral. And all I want to do is do such a good job for you, your friends, and your family that at the end of the experience, you want to talk about us. So I've got a few points I want to share with you today on why you should not be buying a property in 2022. The first one is you should not be buying a property if you think prices are going to go up 15 to 20% a year. And even though this has been happening for the last few years, if you expect to buy a property today when prices are at the most that they have ever been, and you think it's going to continue to go up 10 to 15 or more than that percent every year, you're not going to be happy. These type of price increases over the last few years are just not realistic. The 40-year price trend in Toronto is about 6 to 7% appreciation per year. So if you think you're going to buy a property and automatically it's going up 10 to 20% this year, you should not be buying a property. Second reason you should not be buying a property is if you think you're going to sell it in less than a year and make a ton of money. It is legitimately impossible to time the real estate market. There are so many factors that we cannot control. And even myself, as someone that does this every single day, truthfully, I don't know what's going to happen. None of us actually do. Even the economists are typically wrong on their estimations. So I know it's easy to fall into the trap of seeing people post pictures on Twitter where the same house sells for 800 grand 2 years later and think, well, why don't I buy a house and just hold it for a year, 2 years and flip it and make all this money? I don't think what's happening today is going to happen again in the same way. Short-term mindset is never smart for real estate. And really, you only really make money on real estate when you buy it, because then you can refinance it, you can upgrade it, you can rent it out, you can have cash flow. There's many things you can do. But once you sell it, you're out. The third reason you should not be buying a property in 2022 is if you are buying it for cash flow. There used to be a time not that long ago in Toronto when you could buy a condo or a freehold property, put down 20%, you wouldn't have mortgage insurance, and you could rent out that property and break even or maybe even cash flow a few $100 a month. Now, most people aren't buying properties for cash flow in cities like Toronto. They're buying them for capital appreciation. But over time, historically, if you can get your mortgage down and have cash flow on a property, it's a pretty great thing. But the only way in today's market in the city of Toronto for most opportunities, of course, there could be a few outliers here, that you are not going to find a property that will cash flow with 20% down. In fact, realistically, you're probably going to have to put 30 to 35% down. And the final reason you should not be buying a property this year is because you've been caught up in the hype. If you're getting your advice on the property market from your next door neighbor or your friend that sold a property once, it's just not good enough. And it doesn't mean that they're not great people or have good intentions. But if you're just buying because people are saying you should be buying, because if you're not buying, you're going to lose all this money, that is a terrible investment strategy. Now, I do have 3 reasons why I think you should buy property in 2022. I bought a property so far in 2022, and I'll tell you why and what my reasoning was behind it. You should buy a property if you need somewhere to live and you don't want to waste money on rent. Now, let's make something very clear. There is nothing wrong with renting. It is a lifestyle decision, and you should not be shamed for renting a property. If you can make money in different avenues and leverage your money through the stock market or crypto or other things that you're passionate about, by all means, do it. But I always go back to the historic price growth in Toronto. And if you can get into the market and you feel secure about it and you can maintain the monthly payments, There is just no argument that renting has ever been better than buying, really, in the last 40 years, as long as you have a long-term mindset. I think a lot of us, including myself, fall into the trap sometimes at looking at properties as purely assets. You need to live somewhere. It's one of the main three things that we need in life, right? Water, shelter, and food. So you need a roof over your head. And in cities like Toronto, where we have the historic data, I want to own the roof over my head. And that's one of the reasons why maybe you should get into the real estate market in 2022. The second reason that you should be buying this year is if you have a minimum 5-year outlook on the market where you're not going to be moving this property, but ideally actually a 10-year outlook. And I'll tell you why I say 10 years. Because 1989, we had a real estate crash here in Toronto, and it lasted until 1996. And it was tough during that time to move properties. And if people sold and exited the market, they lost a lot of money. Because even if you bought a property at the peak of 1989 before things turned, if you're able to stomach holding that property during the times when the prices are down, history has shown us that long term, especially with a minimum 10-year mindset, you're going to be in a good position. And since then, we've really only ever had two other times where prices have decreased. 2008 for obvious reasons with everything that happened in the States, and the second half of 2017 when we had fair housing, we had foreign buyer tax, we had stress tests come in the next year. That kind of only hit the markets outside Toronto, but prices did drop significantly. The last reason why I think you should be buying this year is that if you have the mindset that Toronto properties will go up 3 to 5% in value every single year, I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised. Because even though the last decade we've seen almost 10 to 12% increases every year, the 40-year chart shows about 6 to 7%. If I go in with a mindset of like, I'm buying this property, I'd love if it went up 3 to 5% a year. If it doesn't do that or has a bad year or has a good year, I'm going to feel okay. It's almost like you're under promising but over delivering to yourself. And long term, it's probably going to put you in a really cool position. Final point for real estate investors that are watching this, or even first-time home buyers. I don't think you should put all of your money into a property. Although it has worked out, I'm going to be a bit more conservative with the advice I'm giving right now. I think you should still have a fund on the side in a savings account, even though you're losing money on inflation on it, where like if something went bad or things change or you needed money, it's at least 3 to 6 months of what could get you through living your lifestyle. If you have any comments, make sure to throw them below. Let me know what you think. And remember, home is where your story begins.